My first North Carolina fossils were small gray shark's teeth. But like many boys and girls, I wanted to dig for the bones of dinosaurs or mastodons. That seemed impossible, however, because all the great fossil sites were in faraway places. I think of the deserts of Mongolia and of the high plains of Montana. I have actually been with teams from the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences as they searched the stark gullies of eastern Montana for bones of the great creatures of 70 million years ago. It is tough, physical work, made worthwhile by discovery, that allows us to piece together the puzzle that is the past. I have learned recently, however, that I didn't have to search the world for great fossil sites because they are right here in coastal and Piedmont, North Carolina. In our state, there are some incredible sites where skeletons of great fish, reptiles, and dinosaurs can be found. The remains of mammals, like ancient walrus and giant sloth, are also here in North Carolina. Much of the research and discovery concerning North Carolina's ancient past takes place right here at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. This is part of the museum that most people don't see. It may sound like a dentist office, but this is the paleontology laboratory, where cutting-edge research is done by some of this country's best scientists. Paleontology is the study of ancient life, not just animals, but of ecosystems and types of behavior, whether predator-prey or the care of young. It is the study of links between the plants and animals of today and those living millions of years ago. Today, Exploring North Carolina will show you 3 time capsules where you can get incredible snapshots of North Carolina's distant past. When many of us think of North Carolina fossils, the first things that come to mind are shark's teeth that can be found in coastal sand and mineral deposits. One of the best places to learn about toothy sharks, whales, and the ocean in which they lived is the PCS phosphate mine near Aurora, North Carolina. PCS phosphate officials allowed Exploring North Carolina and scientists from the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences to visit a segment of their mining operation that offers a breathtaking glimpse into an ancient ocean. I had the privilege of talking with Vince Snyder, curator of paleontology at the museum. I asked Vince about the significance of the PCS phosphate site.
I'm here at the PCS phosphate mining quarry near Aurora, North Carolina. And this mining operation basically exposes several different ancient ocean beds, and they range anywhere from between 2 to 16 million years old. I come to this site because I'm interested in looking at the different bony fish faunas that are represented here in the ages of between 4 and 6 million years ago. At this time, these oceans were just teeming with different fish. There were large schools of tuna, bonita, drum, hake, bluefish, and there were also large predatory fish, also like the marlins, were very abundant at this time. And I like to look at the interreactions of these different fish faunas between each other. These schools of fish were just really large, but the fish here were also very recognizable. To the modern day fishermen, they would be very similar to the modern fish we have today. The modern tunas, the modern bluefish, they're very similar.
I asked Vince why there is such an abundant fossil record at this particular location.
To answer the question why we have such an abundance of life here, we have to go back into the North Carolina's prehistoric past to look at what was going on. And we know from our research that at this time there was a large area of upwelling off North Carolina which provided a large amount of food. This brought in numerous fish, which brought in whales. And the large whales were actually the ones that brought in the giant megatooth sharks, because some of these real large sharks were whale feeders. From a paleontological standpoint, this site is one of the most diverse marine habitats that occurred during the Pliocene and Miocene periods. At this site we have the remains of numerous walruses and seals here, and that poses an interesting question since walruses and seals evolved on the western coast of North America. But over time and through millions of years they migrated south along the western coast of North America, came through what is now Central America since the land bridge was not yet connected, and came up the eastern coast of North America to where we are here in North Carolina. During 4 to 6 million years ago, during the Pliocene age, the oceans off North Carolina basically came up to where I-95 is in the state today. And here in Aurora, North Carolina, these seas here, we were probably about in 300 feet of water. I come here to study the bony fish remains, but the most abundant fossils in this quarry are the remains of numerous invertebrates.
An expert on marine invertebrates, creatures without a vertebra or spine, is Trish Weaver, manager of museum collections of paleontology and geology.
What I really like about this site here at Aurora is the wide variety of invertebrates. My area of expertise is invertebrate fossils, and most people think of invertebrates as clams and snails and oysters, but there are numerous others, including corals, barnacles, scallops, and many more that are of interest to paleontologists. The diversity of invertebrate organisms here is caused by, there's a good food source due to upwelling of currents. In the currents will be lots of little tiny microorganisms that filter feeders such as clams can use to feed on. And then once you have the clams here, you get the predators coming in, such as whelks feeding on the clams.
I asked Trish to describe what the ocean floor might have looked like.
If you were to go back 4 to 16 million years ago, what you'd see is branching corals growing up from a muddy substrate, clams burrowing into that muddy bottom, and then snails crawling along the surface of that muddy bottom. Though a lot of people have more of an interest in the sharks and the whales that are here, they wouldn't be here without the variety of invertebrates that are here. And the invertebrates can tell us a lot about the ecosystem in which all of these organisms thrived.
I could have spent hours or days searching this slice of North Carolina history. If you want to see the fossils of this period, you should visit the Aurora Fossil Museum in Aurora, North Carolina. Before going inside the museum, I got to do some collecting with its director, Curtis Orman Jr.
Well, the PCS phosphate mines in the Aurora Fossil Museum are best known for the large megalodon teeth and the large whale teeth that we have, but we also have a variety of other fossils that date back from 1 to 23 million years ago. We're very proud to be part of the grassroots collaboration in partnership with the North Carolina Museum of Natural Science, and we're open throughout the year, and it's free.
Just when I thought I couldn't be dazzled anymore, a trio of museum paleontologists took me to a site on the Cape Fear River dating back 75 million years. I had entered the age of dinosaurs in my own state. Within minutes of landing the boat, we had found petrified wood and bones. One of my hosts at the site has studied and written about some of the world's premier fossil locations. He is Dr. Dale Russell, who now serves as Senior Curator of Paleontology at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. I asked Dr. Russell to take us back in time.
As a guy who's interested in dinosaurs, I like it here. It has a really nice feeling. I can smell the mud. It's warm. The air is pleasant. It's body temperature. That's good. Then I look around me and I see trees that gosh, these trees go back a long ways. The ball cypress, I've seen some tulip poplar, which are also very ancient here. There are lots of turtles. The thing I miss the most just looking around is the absence of big game. Where is the big game? There should be a giant crocodile over there, a 30-footer, looking at me, sleepily, I hope, or hungrily, if not. I should see evidence of browse. There should be a browse line about 2 meters off the ground here where the animals are breaking, the herbivores are breaking the branches and consuming the leaves. Yeah, it's okay. I like it here. Here along the banks of the Cape Fear, we don't see more than a meter or so of section of geologic history exposed at any one time. But we know by comparing different parts of the river courses that the record here is very extensive in the Cretaceous. We see that when highways are built and when foundations are excavated, we find remnants of the Cretaceous period. If you listen carefully, you can hear cicadas. And cicadas were here then when the dinosaurs were here 75,000 years ago. Cicadas are not very large, but there were a lot of large animals too, and we'd see them in the river here. We'd see turtles with shells at least 1 meter in diameter, and we'd see giant crocodiles that would be perhaps 10 or 12 meters long. I think of duck-billed dinosaurs, which are approximately 10 to 15 meters long on the outside. So I would expect to see groups of duck-billed dinosaurs. I'd expect to see their scat. I'd expect to see heron-like small carnivorous dinosaurs, perhaps chasing dinosaur infants to eat. But we would begin to see the effects of a rich ecosystem turning over. And of course, in the background, we are going to see carnivorous animals, which are really peculiar from the point of view of what we're familiar with today. They were large, 10 times larger than the largest carnivores in Africa, and they had huge heads.
I was curious to know if the creatures found in North Carolina during the time of the Cretaceous period were similar to those found in other parts of North America and the world.
Our best analogies for North Carolina are with Western Canada, where we find the same kinds of environments and a very diverse dinosaur fauna. We are connected over the then North Pole with Asia, and effectively our continent was a subsidiary of Asia, so that many dinosaurs are similar here and in Asia.
Dale Russell told me that during much of the Cretaceous period, the landmass that is now North America was split by an interior seaway. I asked him if various dinosaurs of North America differed because of their location on the continent.
We know that the vegetation in North Carolina was very rich, and the soils indicate, the fossil soils indicate that it was also productive. So I suspect that probably the dinosaurs here in the south had their own character as southern dinosaurs, not just Yankee dinosaurs or Canuck dinosaurs. I think they had their own character, and it's up to us, I guess, to discover it. So North Carolina has a rich geologic history of the dinosaurian age, and it's for us to explore it, to try to understand it, and to use a little bit. We can't use our hands all the times. We have to use our instruments, and we have to use our brains to try to see, to try to infer, to have a picture, a living picture of the history of dinosaurs in North Carolina, which must have been extremely interesting.
Although most of us think of big plants and animals living millions of years ago, paleontologists often focus on a particular category of creatures or plants. Dr. Julia Clark, who teaches at North Carolina State University and also works with the museum, has a special interest in our prehistoric past.
Well, paleontologists study many different aspects of past life or the world of the past. Some focus on climates, some focus on plants and the diversity of plants we have today. But my particular area of study is on the origin of all living birds. So I work on fossil relatives of the birds we have today. In my work on the origin of birds, I have worked in Asia, South America, and now North Carolina, affiliated with the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences and NC State University. It's exciting to find out how North Carolina fits into this global picture of what's going on in bird evolution globally, from the origin of flight about 140 million years to the birds we have today. So the deposits we have here are from the age of dinosaurs. They're about 75 million years. The birds are quite different from today. Many of the forms that would have been here would have had teeth, but their ecologies, or how they behaved as aerial plunge divers like a tern, or as foot-propelled divers like a cormorant today, or wading birds, all of these kinds of feeding or behaviors would have been present. Well, I know when I say age of dinosaurs, a lot of people picture oversized, lumbering forms covered in scales, heavy-bodied, but in fact, when I say age of dinosaurs, I think of living dinosaurs, that is, feathered dinosaurs, the forms we have today, because in fact, living birds are just one lineage of dinosaur.
I wanted to know why places filled with mosquitoes and mud draw her to the past.
Well, one of the joys of being a paleontologist, and in particular a paleontologist in North Carolina, is that we can come to deposits like these and perhaps find a part of the puzzle of understanding some part of past life or Earth history. And in particular, because my interest is the origin of birds, and we don't know when these extant lineages of birds originated, I might come to deposits from this age, in the age of dinosaurs, and find a key new piece of that puzzle, the earliest songbird or parrot, right here in North Carolina.
Before we departed the Cape Fear, I asked Vince Snyder to summarize our day of discovery.
During my 25 years with the North Carolina State Museum, I've been to this site numerous times, and one exciting thing about being a paleontologist is the sense of discovery when you're out in the field, and today was no exception. We had a very successful day finding a vertebra from a dinosaur, a vertebra also from a large 30-foot crocodile, a vertebra from a mosasaur, which was a large aquatic lizard, and also numerous remains of giant river turtles. When we screen in the Cretaceous period, we get the remains, small remains of different little fossils, including small crocodile teeth and also numerous shark's teeth. Besides the numerous animal remains which we find at these sites, there are also the remains of plants. Most of these occur as pieces of wood, fossilized wood, and most of these have been identified as ball cypress, which is still extremely common along these riverbanks.
Before traveling to the Triassic Basin, west and south of Raleigh, I visited the museum's diorama of the Triassic period, depicting North Carolina an astonishing 220 million years ago. I saw crocodile-like creatures called phytosaurs, and the toothy Rausuchians. The first mammals also lived here. Some of the plants living 220 million years ago are similar to those of today. Much of the work being done in the paleontology laboratory now centers on finds from the Triassic Basin. I asked Vince Snyder to describe the area and tell how it was formed.
I'm here at a locality in the Triassic Basin of North Carolina. The Triassic was formed about 220 million years ago when there was a large rift valley that extended in eastern North America from Nova Scotia to northern Georgia. These rift valleys consisted of a number of large lakes, about 100 miles or so long by 20 or 30 miles wide. These were lakes like Lake Tanganyika in Africa. On the east and west side of this large rift valley were these large walls or cliffs that were several thousand feet tall, and as these cliffs eroded, the sediments filled in the basin.
If you want to see North Carolina's Triassic Basin, you need only visit Raleigh-Durham International Airport, which is situated in the middle of one of these ancient rift lakes.
I think the Triassic is one of the most exciting geologic ages because what happened here in the Triassic, in the preceding period, we had a major extinction event in which over 95% of all species went extinct. This left the land ripe for evolution to come in and lots of new species to evolve. We had animals like mammals, our first dinosaurs, our first pterosaurs, our first crocodilians, and our first turtles all evolved in the Triassic.
I asked him how long scientists have known about fossils in this East Coast Triassic location.
Paleontologists first started discovering Triassic fossils back in the 1850s in the Triassic coal beds of North Carolina, which are located in Lee County.
It is exciting that in North Carolina, new discoveries are being made about early life.
The North Carolina Triassic region is extremely promising paleontologically. There's not a whole lot known of the eastern Triassic basins in eastern North America, and whatever new information we get can be highly significant. We've already identified a number of new species from these Triassic deposits, and we've got new material coming in all the time. By examining the sediments at these sites, we're able to tell that most of these sediments were deposited by ancient streams. Some of them we can see by them being very fine-grained, that were deposited in very slow-moving streams, but a number of them were being deposited in very fast, high-energy streams and had very coarse sandstones. The animals we've been finding in the Triassic belong to two major groups, the Archosaurs and the synapsids. The Archosaurs consist of animals like Iodosaurs, Rauisuchians, Phytosaurs, crocodilians, and also dinosaurs. The other group we've been finding are the synapsids, and what we have gotten from them are the Disonodonts and the Sonodonts. The Sonodonts being significant because this was the ancestral group to today's mammals.
As we have already seen, the age of dinosaurs was not just a time of large animals. The region also yields secrets about smaller creatures and plant life.
The Triassic also includes evidence of insects, possibly large dragonflies and other flying creatures. In the Triassic in North Carolina, we also find a lot of evidence of other life, such as invertebrates. We have the freshwater clams that look like modern clams today. We have evidence of shrimp. We have evidence of a little creature called a clam shrimp, which looks like a clam but is actually a shrimp. And also evidence of trace fossils, which would be borings, tracks along the surface of the rock. In the Triassic, especially around old coal sites, we find a variety of flora, including ferns and other plant life.
Here in the stone of the Triassic and at the other places we've been today, time stands still. We hope we've made the plants and animals you've seen come alive on exploring North Carolina.
For additional information about this or other episodes, go to these websites. Starting in 2008, episodes of Exploring North Carolina will be made available to public schools across North Carolina through the generosity of the William R. Keenan Jr. Charitable Trust. Exploring North Carolina is made possible by major financial support from DTS Software, Mainframe Storage Management Solutions. Additional support for this series is provided by the Friends of the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, the state's prominent center for science education and outreach, and the future home of the Nature Research Center, where visitors will be encouraged to participate in ongoing scientific research. And by UNC TV viewers like you.